Welcome to another obscure Asian story. Today we're going to be talking about how a Korean real estate scam led to several suicides. Imagine the following. You live in South Korea and your house contract is about to expire. You try to reach your landlord to remind him that he needed to return the security deposit by the end of the year. No one picks up their phone until you reach a police officer. He informs you that your landlord has died before paying any of his tenants back. You have no option to reclaim massive housing deposits. You are left hopeless. To hundreds of Koreans, this is no fantasy, but a heartbreaking reality after the so-called Villa King died. So, what is Jeonse? It's a traditional Korean real estate system where tenants pay a large sum of money to secure a lease. The amount of key money required depends on the economy and the location of the property. Usually, it's 50% of the property's value, but it can be as high as 60 to 80%. Then, you get to stay in the property rent-free until the end of your lease, which is usually 2 years. Utilities and other costs are paid by you, the tenant, and at the end of your lease, you get your entire deposit back. The landlord can treat your deposit as a 0% interest rate loan to invest into other capital. Sounds pretty cool, right? But here's the catch. Jeonse can be dangerous because it can leave tenants in a lot of debt. If a tenant defaults on their Jeonse payments, they may be forced to sell their assets or even declare bankruptcy. In 2022, the average cost of a Jeonse in South Korea was reported to be only $200,000. However, in Seoul, the average Jeonse amounts to $500,000. It is often difficult for people to come up with the full amount. The government offers loans up to 80% of the Jeonse deposits for tenants. And if you're newly married or a young household, you can get a loan of up to 90% of the deposit. Charter fraudsters will set up fake rental properties and offer Jeonse deposits at a fraction of the market price. They will then take the money and disappear, leaving the victim with no apartment and no deposit. Unfortunately, this phenomenon is not new to South Korean citizens. Mom, Are We Moving Again? Was the title of a series that ran on the cover of the Ilbo beginning on March 22, 1990. It focused on people who were cornered by the soaring prices of long-term housing rental deposits. Over just a 2-month period in 1990, 17 people were driven to suicide by increases in Jeonse. For financially disadvantaged people, deposit prices were a matter of life and death. But why did the lease deposit go up? Well, with a weak US dollar, low oil prices, and low interest rates, real estate prices surged. Between 1986 and 1990, the housing sale price of urban areas across the country rose 47.3%, while Jeonse prices soared by 82.2%. A law in 1989 increased the housing lease term from 1 year to 2 years. In 1991, housing prices finally dropped by 2.1% nationwide and by 0.5% in Seoul. So what did they do? They promoted multi-unit rental housing and accelerated city developments. The unprecedented housing supply, with 2 million new units flooding the market, worked. All of this makes it clear that the South Korean government learned a lesson to protect its citizens. But in recent years, the Jeonse price has skyrocketed again, making it difficult for many Koreans to afford to rent a home. So, who are the so-called Villa Kings? These guys were once real estate magnates worth billions. They used Jeonse to collect hefty deposits from tenants and failed to return them. All of the properties were small-sized residential buildings that are more commonly known as villas in Korea and are usually 3 to 5 stories high and cheaper than apartment complexes. But how did these Villa Kings even buy all those houses? Well, it turns out they were just providing their name as a landlord. The whole process usually starts with a contractor working on a new real estate project. The contractor entrusts the sale of the project to a brokerage, which connects the contractor with a real estate agent and a consulting company. These parties are usually paid a hefty fee for their services. The consulting company finds a Villa King who is looking for new projects, and the Villa King enters into a sales contract with the contractor contractor. On the other hand, the real estate agent looks for potential tenants and provides them with fake documents. The lease price of the new villa is set by the Villa King above the sale price suggested by the builder. The tenant's Jeonse deposit is then used to buy the villa, and the difference is pocketed by both the Villa King and the contractor. Since the lease is now registered with the Villa King, if he is unwilling to return the deposit or passes away, the tenants are left stranded. They struggle to get their deposits back because the right of indictment disappears with a person's death. There were cases where a Villa King somehow signed a lease contract 3 days after the death. In other cases, houses were disguised as living facilities in the neighborhood. The realtor and the loan advisor created false documents, and tenants were able to take out a loan with these. It all came to light with the arrest of 79 Villa Kings in January. They conspired to buy 628 houses in Seoul and Incheon, leaving 37 confirmed victims unable to get back 8 billion won in deposits. The fundamental problem of Jeonse frauds lies in the Jeonse system itself. On one hand, we have young victims who receive Jeonse loans from the government. On the other hand, we have perpetrators who can use the Jeonse deposit as private financial instrument without credit or security. Some victims are quoted saying that if they hadn't been able to get a loan, they wouldn't have signed a charter contract to begin with. Other factors that enabled these Jeonse fraud methods were soaring lease prices due to the real estate boom in 2021 to 2022, as well as the Housing Lease Protection Act, which includes a ceiling on monthly rent. So how did landlords get away with all this? If a landlord doesn't return the deposit, the government will bail out the tenant as long as they have a deposit refund guarantee. If the landlord dies without an heir, the tenant can't end the lease and won't get their deposit back. If there's a bank loan, the bank gets paid first. This can leave tenants in bad situations, and some have even committed suicide. Some might feel like they failed or are ashamed. Others might be in debt and feel trapped. And some might have mental health issues that make it harder to handle the stress of a Jeonse agreement. So far, more than 1,700 tenants have lost an estimated 309.9 billion Korean won, and about a half of the victims were in their 20s and 30s. Since last July, 2,188 people have been charged and 209 arrested for rental scams. The ruling party said it will seek to confiscate all assets tied to such cases. The government asked lenders to stop selling homes where tenants were scammed. South Korea is also making it easier for homeowners to repay Jeonse deposits for a year. The measures are meant to stop market shocks and not cause more household debt. 3 people committed suicide because of the scams, and more than 1,000 tenants have been left penniless. Despite all these measures, some tenants still can get their deposits back. After all, these measures do not target the social root of this problem. Jeonse fraud should be recognized as a social disaster and not individual negligence. And that's all for today, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for more stories. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching!